In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to write a conclusion to your scientific investigation. Now, when you write a conclusion, the key thing is to keep it simple, to keep it straightforward. We don't want to go into amazing detail, right? That's the whole point of a conclusion, is that we can look at the aim, okay? What did this investigation set out to do? Then go to the end, look at the conclusion, what did they find out? And then, having read both of those things, I have an idea of what this experiment is about. And if I want to know more information, that's when I now go through and start going through the experiment in more detail. So that's why we we have as a conclusion is just basically a summary of how our investigation went. So, what do you need to do to keep it simple, to keep it straightforward? You do these three things. You answer the aim, you address the hypothesis, and you include the main ideas discovered. So, what does it mean to answer the aim? Well, you have an aim for your experiment to investigate the effect of such and such and such, right? Well, to answer the aim, did you test that? Well, yes, you did, hopefully. And so you would say that, right? This effect was investigated. And you would then talk about the trends that you found as a result of investigating this. Now, including the main ideas often is about your trends, right? What did you find from your data? But it could also include how did you then combine those ideas that you found from your experiment? How do you combine that with research that you did, or maybe with the discussion that you did? Okay, in the conclusion, you could talk about how an improvement that could have been done to this experiment to let other people know how to improve this experiment in the future. So let's take this idea and apply it to this experiment, okay? So we've changed the type of liquid used to water the plants, and we're measuring the height. And then we got data and made this graph. And we can clearly see from this graph that water was the best to make the plants grow, whereas Coke was the worst. So, what was the aim? The aim was to investigate the effect of changing the type of liquid used to water plants on the height that the plants grow. Okay, what was the effect of changing the type of liquid on the height that the plants grow? The height that the plants grow. Let's make that grammatically correct. Okay, and then what was the hypothesis? The hypothesis was, in this example, that the Coke will make the plant grow the tallest, whereas the water will make the plant grow the shortest. How could I write my conclusion? Well, very first thing, I need to answer the aim. So, what was my aim? To investigate the effect. Okay, so I could simply say, in this experiment, I always like to start my conclusions this way. In this experiment, the effect of changing the type of liquid hang on, let's start this again. In this experiment, the effect of changing the type of liquid used to water plants on the height that the plants grow was investigated. Okay, I've answered my aim. I've said this is actually what happened. Okay. Okay. It was found. What did I find out? Okay, let's start. Okay, we're going to talk about the main ideas. I'll come back to the hypothesis in a little bit. So include the main ideas. it was found that water was, let's go with, water caused the plant to grow the tallest, while Coke made the plant grow the shortest. This this meant that the hypothesis was, you can either say confirmed if it was found to be true, or denied. Right? In this case, I'm going to say denied. Right? So in this case, right, in fact, let's put this up here to make it nice and easy, right? So the hypothesis was confirmed or denied, and that is a choice. There you go. So this meant that the hypothesis was denied, okay, because it was found to be not true, so it was denied. This meant that the hypothesis was denied. Could I include anything else? Okay, well, I've answered my aim, I've addressed the hypothesis, I've included the main trend, but I haven't really combined the trends to my research. Well, in my research, maybe I discovered that, well, Coke is actually mostly water, but it's also, Coke is mostly water, but it's not fully water. It's got some other things in it. Okay, so this could have, and ideally you've conducted research into this to actually give backing to your claim. But you could say this could have, upon your research that is, this could have resulted from Coke containing a significant amount of water, but also other additives that did not stimulate growth. Right? In other words, that's a fancy sentence. What am I saying there? I'm kind of giving a reason for my observed trend. And where did I find that reason? Well, I find that reason from looking at research. Okay, now I actually made this up. I haven't actually done the research into this, but you would have done background research that you can draw upon to combine with your trend. Okay, and so you say, so this could have resulted from Coke containing a significant amount of water. I basically just said, right, it's mostly water, but the other stuff that isn't water didn't help it grow. Okay, so that is how we could write our conclusion. Okay, so in fact, let's make it super clear how I have done this. So in yellow, I addressed the aim, or I answered the aim. In green, I addressed the hypothesis. And then, including the main ideas covered, let's put that in light blue. Oh no, that's a bit hard to read. Let's put it in pink. No, I think light blue is probably actually is the way to go. Alright. There we go. So that was the main idea. And then that was a main idea. Okay. Now actually, I'm going to say, right, from the trend, and then from the research, I'm actually going to use a different one. Let's use pink for that one. Okay, just so that you can clearly see what I've done there. Okay, so how did I lay out my conclusion? I answered the aim. I included the trends that I observed. I gave a comment on the hypothesis. And then I finally tried to give a brief explanation from my background research. That is how you write a conclusion.